Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got Hopkins flying up these rankings. We have Tua back with Waddle. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a fun video to make. But before we get into anything, make sure you go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. If you have any questions, if you want to tell me I'm an idiot, you know you could do that down there in the comment section. And down there in the comment section, you're also going to find a link to our sponsor, Game Time. Literally, I was thinking, okay, do I want to go to the University of Texas game this weekend? Hook 'em horns. Now, I know you're saying, well, Mason, it's way too late for you to go to the game. How are you going to get tickets? Well, Game Time, literally the best idea ever. You can get tickets up to an hour before the game on Game Time. And because you're waiting until the last second in some of these instances, you can find those tickets at half off, or maybe even sometimes more than that. Super excited to use this and getting tickets to games going forward, or tickets to concerts, whatever you want. And if you want to go check out Game Time and probably get some very good deals on those tickets, you can find the link in the comment section, find a link in the description. And when you use promo code FANTASYFLOCK with your first purchase, they will take $20 off your first purchase of $150 or more. But I think that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into these rankings. Leading off with Cooper Kupp at 1. With Kupp, I mean, do I even have to talk about these guys? Kupp, Jefferson, Diggs, first tier. Okay. Do we need to say anything with Stephon Diggs? You know, we wanted to have him as that tier 1 wide receiver coming into this season. Stephon Diggs, my most drafted round 1 player on Underdog Fantasy this year. Stephon Diggs, the numero uno wide receiver in fantasy so far this season. But if we are projecting rest of season, even if I have Diggs everywhere, I think we have to be realistic. You still have to have Kupp and Jefferson over them. But regardless, kind of sucks that all of the tier 1 wide receivers in our rest of season rankings are going to be on bye this week. But now going down to our next tier, we're going to have Jamar Chase led off at 4. I mean, Jamar Chase, exactly where we had him last week. Everybody was panicking. We were saying if you could somehow get just a 5 to 10% discount on Jamar Chase, go and do that ASAP. But obviously, you're no longer going to be able to. Now, going over to our next guy, Devontae Adams at 5. With Adams, what I really like is he's already gone through the bye week. And honestly, don't think he's getting suspended. I mean, I think it would have happened by now. I think you are good to go, good to play Devontae Adams every single week going forward. And you do have to value those players that have already gone through their bye slightly more than someone else that's going to have a comparable points per game mark, just given the fact they are going to have that extra game played. Now our next guy, Tyreek Hill at 6. Tyreek, we are getting to Tagovailoa back in, so very excited to see what the Miami Dolphins do on Sunday night, specifically for someone we're about to talk about in Jalen Waddle. Next guy, CeeDee Lamb at 7. With CeeDee Lamb, this is your last chance to trade for him. He is a top 2-tier player now. You have Dak Prescott coming in, and this week in particular, CeeDee Lamb is in line to maybe be the wide receiver 1 overall. Now, of course, I mean, hell, you have no Kupp, no Jefferson, no Diggs. So, I mean, you can kind of sit here and say anybody could be the wide receiver 1 overall, but it is a great spot with Dak Prescott coming back in, going up against the Detroit Lions. I could see the Dallas Cowboys putting up 4 passing touchdowns. For that reason, I honestly wouldn't mind taking a CeeDee Lamb over on Underdog Fantasy. If you want to check out any of those player props on Underdog Fantasy, find the link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. And honestly, I wouldn't mind drafting him in a battle royale draft on Underdog Fantasy either this week. Quick note, if you are on Underdog and you draft a battle royale draft this week, I think maybe at the beginning of next as well. Anyway, they're kind of being a little secretive about this. If you get one of those drafts in, you have a 100x boosted pick'em next week. I don't know how the hell they're doing this. Cannot wait to see more details, but you better believe I'm getting a draft in. Now going down to our next guy, we have Jalen Waddle at 8. With Jalen Waddle, I mean, you know, I am a massive fanboy of him. My most drafted wide receiver this season. I've already talked about him for God knows how long. I think we're probably just boring you with it at this point, but he has to be a rise. He has to be a riser with Tua Tagovailoa back with him fully. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to see Jalen Waddle Sunday night. Next guy, A.J. Brown at 9. Yes, we're going to move A.J. Brown behind Jalen Waddle with Tua Tagovailoa coming back in. With A.J. Brown, I mean, it's just an offense that is elite, but they can run the ball. They have Devonta Smith as well. They have Dallas Goedert on top of that. Jalen Hurts will be getting some rushing touches. I mean, they have a lot going on here. So even if A.J. Brown is an elite level wide receiver in an elite level offense, you can see why it's not as easy just to throw him up there in the top 2 tiers as some of these other names. But now our third guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown in this tier. I mean, just love all these wide receivers. However, I mean, I think that we have to put him as a top 10 guy. I know some people are going to be concerned about Jameson Williams coming in. I think, yeah, once you have Jameson, it's going to be interesting to see how they break down the targets here between Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, TJ Hawkinson, DeAndre Swift. They're going to have so many players in this Detroit Lions offense, but maybe these are just shootouts going forward, knowing how bad the Detroit Lions defense is. Now our last guy in this tier, DeAndre Hopkins. I have DeAndre Hopkins ranked as the wide receiver 5 this week because you have nobody in the top 3, and not necessarily because I think DeAndre Hopkins is locked and loaded to be a top 5 wide receiver, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that if you have DeAndre Hopkins on your team, you put DeAndre Hopkins in your lineup. Now, I am recording this right before the Thursday night game, so hopefully this worked out. Maybe you're laughing at me right now. Feel free to go to the comment section and tell me how stupid I am. But now dropping down to our next tier, we got Deebo Samuel 12. Deebo has to be a faller, in my opinion, in that you had Elijah Mitchell going down. You had Trey Lance going down. I mean, I didn't like Deebo Samuel coming into the season, but I was like, okay, well, the situation is completely different. The rushing touchdowns may actually stay there. They're not rushing the ball with Deebo Samuel as much as you're used to. Kittle's getting involved now that he's back from his injury. Brandon Ayuk looks good as well. And if Deebo Samuel's not getting involved as a rusher when they have no Elijah Mitchell, I'd be surprised if Elijah Mitchell comes in, then all of a sudden they decide, oh, okay, yeah, let's make sure that Deebo Samuel gets his 8 rushing touchdowns again. So a little bit concerned about Deebo. I do think we need to drop him down the tier. Now our next guy, Mike Evans at 13. I know a lot of people are worried about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. Please don't. I mean, here with Brady, I 100% agree. Yes, he does not look as good as he has in years past. Yes, maybe if you're a Bucs fan, you should be a little bit concerned. But no, from a fantasy football standpoint, the passing volume is going to be here regardless. They're still throwing the ball over and over and over again. Evans still has a crap ton of touchdown upside, so I still really like Mike Evans. Now our next guy, T. Higgins at 14. Higgins, must-start guy for us last week, must-start guy for us every single week going forward. Literally low in wide receiver 1 last season with Jamar Chase breaking out as a rookie. Still incredibly young. I expect that this Cincinnati Bengals offense is still pretty good. So I'm completely fine having T. Higgins ranked here. But now dropping down to our next tier, we're going to go Chris Godwin 15. Pretty much copy and paste what I said about Mike Evans. I think that in a full PPR format, Godwin's going to get the target volume. So maybe you want Godwin. In a non-PPR league, Evans going to have the touchdown upside. So maybe you want Evans a little bit higher than Godwin. I think both players are must-start guys every single week. Very excited about both options. Now our next guy, Michael Pittman. Y'all know I was not a big Michael Pittman fan coming into this season. I mean, we were looking at Pittman saying everybody else in fantasy football all has the same exact take that Matt Ryan is so good, yada, 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 that Matt Ryan's going to come in and Matt Ryan's going to make Michael Pittman a must-start, locked and loaded top 10 receiver. I wasn't buying it. I thought Matt Ryan wasn't that great, but in reality, it may not matter how good Matt Ryan is. I got to sit here and take my L. Matt Ryan is the second quarterback in the NFL in passing yards right now. The passing volume is there in Indianapolis. So even if I'm not a big Michael Pittman fanboy, I mean, I got to take my L with Matt Ryan. I mean, second in the NFL in passing. How the hell is that possible? How is that possible? But now our last guy in this tier, we got Gabriel Davis. Davis, I mean, has been the wide receiver 2 in fantasy, only behind Stephon Diggs over the past 2 weeks. Gabriel Davis has been phenomenal. And in a non-PPR format, you would move Gabriel Davis higher than this. However, specifically in a full PPR league, the passing volume still isn't there. I mean, it's crazy. Last week, I feel like we nailed it. Last week, you were looking at Davis saying, must-start guy against Kansas City. Obviously, the matchup's great and he has the big play potential. However, we still took the under on Gabriel Davis on 3.5 receptions on Underdog Fantasy. Maybe it was 4.5 receptions, whatever it was. He actually got the under to hit Because with Gabriel Davis, the issue is he doesn't consistently get targeted. He is that big play, boomer bust guy. Non-PPR format, really like it. In a full PPR league, I would look to sell. Now, dropping down to our next tier, Keenan Allen at 18. A little hesitant here to tell people to go through and jam Keenan Allen into their starting lineups this week. Obviously, maybe on a snap count. He may be limited. It's a later game, so if the hamstring doesn't feel good right before pregame, maybe they pull him. But coming into this season, I preferred Keenan Allen over Mike Williams in full PPR leagues, given the consistent target volume we've had in years past. Not a big Mike Williams guy because he is going to be that field stretching guy. He's going to be more that boomer bust type player, and I would rather just have the player getting consistent target volume, and he's been a top 10 receiver on average over the past 3 years. Now our next guy, Chris Olave. If you're looking at my rankings for Chris Olave this week, I actually have Olave a lot higher this week than we have him ranked at wide receiver 19 right now. Now, like I said, recording this right before the Thursday night game, so if Olave goes out there and has 150 receiving yards, maybe we're going to reevaluate this ranking. I think Olave probably does great on Thursday night, knowing you have no MT, knowing you have no Jarvis. But I think as these wide receivers get healthy and back in the starting lineup later on in the season, would be a little bit more concerned about Olave at that point. If we have MT, Jarvis, Olave, Kamara, and Taysom Hill stealing rushing touchdowns, maybe a little bit difficult. But now our last guy in this tier, Mike Williams at 20. I mean, y'all know I'm not a big Mike Williams fanboy. He's been on a sell-high video for us for quite some time. Even though it's funny, remember back week 1, after he had 2 receptions and everybody panicked, we had Mike Williams on the buy low video because we were ready for Mike Williams to be dominant with no Keenan Allen. But now that Keenan Allen's back in, it's time to go through and sell Mike Williams if you can. Probably should have sold a week ago. But going down to our next tier, we have Amari Cooper 21. Amari's probably going to be worse than these other options for the short term. Like over the next month, I'd not be surprised if every other receiver outscores Amari Cooper in this tier. However, the reason Amari is going to be at the top end of this is we are closer to Deshaun Watson returning than we are to the start of the NFL season. And say what you will about Deshaun Watson, the Browns did not trade 3 first-round picks and then proceed to give him the most guaranteed money in NFL history because he's a bad NFL quarterback. No. Deshaun Watson is an elite level quarterback. He will come in. He will elevate this entire situation. He'll be the biggest upgrade in the NFL from Jacoby Brissett to Deshaun Watson. So I think Amari Cooper in the second half of the year, when Watson comes back, honestly, is going to be a riser from this spot. Now our next guy, DK Metcalf at 22. With Metcalf, I'm just not a long-term believer in Geno Smith and the passing volume consistently being there. Great receiver, concentrated target tree, so you can still start Metcalf, still start Lockett every single week. It's going to be hard for me to rank him too much higher than this. We'll have Kirk at 23. Christian Kirk, this is a wide receiver that I think is playing in a better offense going forward with Jacksonville. They've struggled over the past 3 weeks. This past week, they had more rushing yards than passing yards. The 2 weeks prior, they literally had like 7 turnovers in a 2-week stretch. I think that you probably have the turnovers slowing down. You get more sustained drives from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Chris Kirk's a little more exciting of an option. Now our next guy, Allen Lazard, 24. I got to take my L on Allen Lazard. Coming into the season, we said, well, they have Lazard, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins. Yes, Lazard's probably the wide receiver 1 on paper, but by no means is it a guarantee. No, we should not be drafting Allen Lazard over someone like Hopkins. I had to take my L. I was a big anti-Allen Lazard guy coming into the year at his ADP. But now that Randall Cobb's down, now that Sammy Watkins down, now that Christian Watson, now that there's so many different wide receiver injuries here, hell yeah, Allen Lazard's the top 24 guy. Allen Lazard's a lot more exciting. So I'm sorry if we went for being too low on Allen Lazard. I do want to fix this, so I do want to move him up these rankings. That's why we had him on that skyrocketing wide receiver video. But now dropping down to our next tier, we're going to have Sutton, Lockett, and Judy. Now, I can already hear you going, oh my gosh, Mason, you bum. How the hell are you ranking Courtland Sutton wide receiver 25? Take your L. You have no idea what you're doing. Yada, yada, yada. You were wrong about Sutton. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, if we pull this up right now, I'm no mathematician, but Courtland Sutton on the season is the wide receiver 27 on a points per game basis. So we're ranking Sutton higher than where he's finished so far. And on top of this, Sutton has been in a good spot with Jerry Jeudy going down. So with Jerry Jeudy going down in week 2, he didn't play. It's going to show up in the per game numbers that he did, but in reality, he didn't. We all remember, you can't argue with me. Jerry Jeudy went down at the beginning of the game. He didn't play, okay? So if we remove week 2 for Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, I'm going to get out a little calculator here. We are going to stall. I will even include week 3 for y'all. I would say we probably shouldn't include week 3. Jerry Jeudy was a game time decision. Shouldn't have played, dealing with the shoulder and chest injury. He only had 17 receiving yards. I mean, the lowest mark of the season outside of the week he left early by far. I'm going to include week 3 here just because I want to be fair. Let's go through. Let's figure out how many receiving yards for Jerry Jeudy minus week 2. Okay, so 279. We all see that here. Now let's go do the same thing with Courtland Sutton, who literally had over 200 receiving yards in the 2 weeks that Jerry Jeudy was injured. Okay, the 2 weeks Jerry Jeudy was injured, he was great, but that was a 2-week stretch, and you can clearly see it. It's black and white. And then here, if we're going to be looking at that, I mean, Courtland Sutton's not much better. I don't know. I don't know why everybody hates us so much for my Courtland Sutton take. I feel like we got this right. I'm sorry for telling you not to value Courtland Sutton as a top 12 wide receiver. I'm sorry for that. I think Sutton, Jeudy are in the same tier rest of season. Lockett will throw in here as well. Wide receiver 26. Lockett has been phenomenal. You could actually move Lockett above this. I think you can move Lockett. We're going to move him up to the tier with Alan Lazard. There's no reason for me to have Tyler Lockett that low. But now going over to our next guy, someone that I truly need to take an L on, Deontay Johnson. With Deontay, I love the target volume, but this Pittsburgh Steelers offense is garbage. If you're going to notice something, these wide receivers that have bad quarterbacks, we're moving them down rankings. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of putting a wide receiver in there that we think is extremely talented, like Deontay Johnson, like DJ Moore, and the quarterback production is so damn bad that they can't over. I'm done with it. If he has a trash quarterback, I'm moving him down. Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 28. We're going to have Devonta Smith, 29. With Smith, love the receiver. Obviously, the situation is he's going to be a volatile wide receiver as you have a lot of running back production. Jalen Hurts getting rushing touchdowns. A.J. Brown being the alpha wide receiver 1. So we all have Smith at 29. We'll go Michael Thomas at 30 as well. Hopefully MT is back relatively soon. And hopefully Michael Thomas goes back to being at least a top 24 guy for us. But I think that's all I got for y'all. Thank you again for everything. If you enjoyed the video, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. Thank you for Game Time for sponsoring this video. You can find the link to Game Time in the comment section if you want to go check out your favorite team this offseason. I promise you they're going to have tickets there. Just make sure you use promo code FANTASYFLOCK, and then also make sure you go hop in Underdog Draft, given the fact that they have a 100x boost for anybody who gets in an Underdog best ball draft. You can find that link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK there. But thank you again. I appreciate you and hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight.